I would really love to introduce you now to this third session of our GSDP conversation series. The first one has been on triangular cooperation, which has also been slightly touched upon in the session together with Damurabi. The second on agroecology, and we are delighted that today's session is about financing renewable energies. So, I'm introducing myself. I thought I would have to introduce myself. I don't have to anymore, luckily. So, we will have one round of key interventions by our speakers and one Q&A session. And with that said, I would first like to introduce my speakers to the panel. Dr. Mathur, please, welcome. Dr. Mathur is the host of this, I guess most of us know him, but I've seen a few people joining, coming in and out. So Dr. Mathur is the Director General of the International Solar Alliance, previously led the Energy and Resources Institute and served on India's Prime Minister's Council on Climate Change, was the co-chair of Energy Transition Commission and the Clean Cooling Initiatives, led the Indian Bureau of Energy Efficiency, and so on and so on. Forgive me for not saying all of it. Welcome. It is and has been a pleasure working with you, Dr. Mathur. Welcome so much to our panel. My next speaker will be Shubhangi Kichlu from the Growth Initiatives of Superhuman Race. Please, Shubhangi, join us here on the panel. Thank you so much for being with us. The Superhuman Race is a platform which focuses on measuring and enhancing positive impact across businesses, communities, and individuals, such as net zero goals of businesses. We will learn from Shubhangi on her business in a little while, and she believes strongly in that anything that gets measured can be improved, is what she told me, and I really love that quote, and that re-evaluating sustainability is a great opportunity for all business. Welcome, Shubhangi. Next, Dinesh Jagdale. Joint Secretary at the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. And I'm very sorry if I have made a mistake in pronouncing your name, sir. You have a background in electronics engineering and an MBA in marketing, and over 30 years of experience in the electrical and renewable energy sectors, including wind and solar industries. You received numerous awards. You joined the ministry in 2019, and you're currently working on India's extremely ambitious high target of 500 gigawatts from non-fossil sources by 2030. So you have been an outstanding partner for German cooperation as well. For instance, in the uptake of innovative solar applications, you have been working together with us in state energy visions and energy plans, and so on and so on. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Uwe Gehlen. Nobody else than my boss, actually. Uwe Gehlen is a development expert from the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development with large international experience. He's currently the head of development cooperation in India. Before, he held the same position in Egypt. He focuses on enhancing but largely also multilateral development cooperation, emphasizing sustainable development and climate change mitigation. He has extensive international experience, for instance, more than 6 years at the World Bank in Washington, D.C. And on a very personal note, since I'm working very closely with Uwe, he is really thinking out of the box, which is extremely unusual for someone working for the civil service for more than half of his life now. And has visionary ideas and definitely very, very, very many anecdotes to share. Welcome, Uwe. That said, I'll give you a very short overview of what the GSDP actually is. GSDP, or the Green and Sustainable Development Partnership, has been signed in 2020 by no one else but the Honorable Prime Minister Modi, together with my Chancellor, Olaf Scholz. And it really aligns with the 2030 agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as the Paris Agreement. The GSDP Talk Series is a forum to discuss various GSDP-focused topics, and it includes but also multilateral initiatives in our cooperation. For instance, a close cooperation with the International Solar Alliance. I would, however, say it may be said better with images than words, and would love Baya to start a very short introductory video. Thank you so much. Like I said, today's session will focus on RE. We have a broader collaboration than that, but we are very happy that today we can really focus on what is our largest portfolio, also from the German side, and what we are very proud at working with the Indian side. Dr. Mathur, let me start with you. Having in mind the diverse structure of an international organization such as the ISA, where do you personally, but also on that level, see a distinct role of this Indo-German cooperation globally?
Elizabeth, many, many thanks. At the level of the International Solar Alliance, obviously we are working with you on skills development. But more importantly, I believe that there are two opportunities that also arise. The first is around innovation. This is an area where we have seen, almost no innovation occurring which can be used in developing countries, much more importantly on the user side. So whether it's energy efficient technologies or renewable energy technologies, I would like to see German engineering come to the forefront, hopefully manufacturing in India to bring costs down. I look at the one example that we have with a Japanese company. Maruti has 50% of the car market in India. The car is designed in Japan and manufactured in India. Can we do something similar? That's the first part. The second is that all said and done, and this goes to the heart of GSDP, all said and done, we are looking at new mechanisms for financial cooperation as well. I am wondering whether we can create some kind of a financial instrument, possibly bonds once renewable energy projects are fully paid for and getting returns. So bonds and investment in bonds by pension funds could be used as a way to ensure that the pension funds are safe, they get the money, but on the other hand, the renewable energy projects get the investments that they need once they are working. So these are the two areas where I would very much like to see a far greater collaboration between Germany and India.
Thank you, Dr. Mathur. We have now, you've seen Uwe nodding as well, so we have taken note from the German governance side. Uwe, coming to you, which main challenges does or should Indo-German cooperation address to accelerate net zero targets and to increase investments in renewable energy? Be it political, technical, financial, the whole round of it in 5 minutes.
In 5 minutes, and certainly without anecdotes in this first 5 minutes. But actually, I pick it up from the questions you raised, and I turn it around in the in the challenge we are facing in some. Because when you meant pensions, my ears went up. Because when you look on that one as a financial resource or potential, you have to have in mind which are the conditions of the country you're addressing the issues through, because it's related to the way how they organize their pension system. And when you look and compare Germany to an Anglo-Saxon framework, where you usually have the situation where you have this pension funds as a valid pillar of the financing the elderly outdropping of the labor market, is Germany has a different way of how they're addressing the pensions. It's a really systemic thing. But the interesting thing, turn it around in the development thing, is how do you address the diversity of different opportunities in a global range? And who's the one who's picking up on that? Who's doing this networking, this knowledge exchange, this adapting, this systemic modification and the way beyond? This is the interesting thing, and the question is, who would be the driver and the resource of such an effort? And I think how we are stated in a world which is mainly organized in just dividing between the public sector and the private sector, the question would be, who has the in-depth incentive for doing that? Who is bridging this gap? And there we have a lack. We have some international organizations in place who are trying to do so. You referred on today the signing of the MOU. MIGA does a hell of a job, actually. I talked to them just recently also in the way how they try to get Germany in, and we are in, no doubt about it. But the thing is, this is not enough. So, and this is a whole discussion around the rearrangement of the international system in a constructive manner, goal, target related. So Germany has to offer a lot of opportunities on that one, because our landscape, institutional landscape, allow us to look into every different box. And the question would be, are we doing this sufficiently? And there I would say, to criticize myself, we are not there yet to do it a full-fledged. But to make a final point, and I'm still in the 5 minutes, I would suppose, the interesting thing is, when do you throw a stone in a lake that you see the rings are just going up? And in relation to India, which is the most vibrant and relevant room worldwide, I would suppose now on this task, I think we jointly picked up a stone, you and me, and throwed it in a lake. And this is what we are heading for actually now, because the whole discussion around the upcoming launch and the RE Invest on an Indian-German platform is in the back of the mind is that we need to do something jointly just to pull the trigger on that one and going the full distance. And let's see where we get there. And this is really where we need also ISA and all the actors, the multi-stakeholder approach. Not to create a new institution, not to come up with certain new ideas nobody would like to have, but consisting and consulting with everybody at the table to get the momentum and open the valve. And this is, I think, our development contribution, not only as Germany, but as development practitioners born in a system, you know, with GIZ, with KfW, with PTB, you name them. And this is a discussion where we are looking for our purpose in somehow.
Thank you, Uwe. Well beyond the 5 minutes, I would say. But opening up a lot of these construction or sites, or let's say it positive, because Dr. Matulja is such a positive person, the half ready, you know, but still to be continued buildings that we are putting up together with India and in a multilateral sphere, be it the MDB reform where we are working with India on global public goods, but also now this endeavor to really pull in the private sector and to solve exactly that problem that August has mentioned in his speech as well. The one-to-one leverage is surely not enough. We would at least try and strive for 1, 2, 3. So with that coming to you, Sir, the RE Invest, which will take place from the 16th to the 18th of September in Gandhinagar, it's the government's flagship event to showcase India's renewable energy potential to the world and invite investment also globally in this country. So with that seen, what do you think are the key factors for attracting global companies, for instance, like German, European ones, but also beyond that, to invest in domestic solar manufacturing and also India's hydrogen economy?
Thank you. Thank you, and sorry. It's a pleasure to be amongst this esteemed panel. We have been engaged in a lot of intense discussions since yesterday. Obviously, there was a mega show in the evening. I'm sure we all have enjoyed that. But let me also first take this discussion by inviting you to the RE Invest, which is happening on 16th, 17th, and 18th of September this month in Gandhinagar. This is a show which is hosted by the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, and I'm proud and pleased to also inform you that we have Germany as our country partner, showcasing a lot of various aspects, discussing various aspects in terms of the collaboration, in terms of the aspects on technology, and also what lies from 2024 to 2030 and beyond. So I would really like you all to be a part of that mega story that we want to unfold from an Indian perspective along with other country partners. And I value and I thank you for being there as a country partner. Obviously, when we are looking at the India story, and I'm sure you must have heard about the discussion since yesterday, and obviously looking at what India has achieved over the last 10 years and what India want to achieve up to 2030, up to 2070, is megafold. What we are today, we are around a 205 gigawatt of renewable, non-fossil based capacity. We want to reach 500, as you mentioned. A long way to go, but obviously what is the current level of our preparedness? We do have a lot of projects which are under consideration, installation, tendering, and obviously we believe together with the support of all those, which when I mention all the stakeholders, including the investment community, the financing community, the developers, we all together, we are hoping that we achieve our goal. So going forward, looking from an Indian perspective, what India has to offer, and that is what we want to discuss in our Invest, is two things. One is an opportunity to be a partner in the growing economy, to be a developed economy which wants to grow at a faster rate. The commitment from the government of India at the highest authority towards climate change is very well known. The targets are more ambitious, and when the targets are ambitious, I think all the key stakeholders also raise their ambitions and be a part of that story. But when we are deploying a lot of resources to produce clean electricity, what we also need is a lot of manufacturing, a lot of resources to be put in manufacturing, which includes, and I want to quote it very categorically, and what Dr. Mathur also mentioned, also put a lot of investments in the solar manufacturing. We do have a very robust wind industry, and thanks to Germany, when we all partnered early 90s, and since then you have seen how the wind industry has been robust in terms of technology, what it can offer in terms of the latest ways of building wind power projects. But solar is one which we do have missed in the last couple of years, but we have geared up now and trying to see how the solar industry manufacturers right from the complete value chain. And when I mention complete value chain, we don't want to leave any component of a solar panel behind, whether it's polysilicon to wafer to module, or even looking beyond the glass, the backsheet, the EVA, and everything that constitutes a solar panel. So we want investments in that sector. When we were also talking, and you did mention about hydrogen, but I also want to take one more, is the battery energy storage. We also want to grow in battery manufacturing capabilities. Obviously, our goal to deploy battery storage solutions is well known. The authority talks about more than 300 gigawatt hours of storage deployment by 2030. And while we do that, we also want to have the latest technology in terms of the advanced chemistry cell batteries, going beyond lithium-ion to sodium-ion and other technologies that can be a part of the global revolution. And everybody knows that unless storage becomes affordable, it is difficult for all of us together to achieve energy transition. So that's the second aspect which we would really like to see during our Invest and talk on those. While we do this, we also would like to see how circular economy is also looked at in terms of this manufacturing abilities. We do have a session there, and we would also like our German colleagues to be there in that session to really talk about how they are handling this particular issue. Thirdly, about hydrogen, obviously India came up with a mission, has come up with a mission in terms of almost 19,000 crores of outlay. Green hydrogen is what we call, what we are aiming for. Obviously, the hydrogen which has the lowest emissions is what we call as green hydrogen. We do have some very ambitious targets. Obviously, 5 million metric ton is what is written in the document, but we want to go beyond that. We are trying to see how this can be made more affordable in terms of not only from a domestic consumption perspective, but how can India on its soil can offer a solution to the entire world to be a part of this revolution of energy transition, manufacture, produce green hydrogen by deploying the state-of-the-art technologies and supply this noble fuel noble feedstock to the entire world. So these are the three key things I look forward in our Invest. I'm sure we all will be a part of that when we discuss on this on 16th, 17th, and 18th of September. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for those very concise interventions of what the expectations from the Indian side are as well for the RE Invest. And I remember in February sitting in this meeting between your secretary and my secretary, Mr. Balla and Mr. Flassbart, when they specifically also decided, yes, we also need to work on the diversification of supply chains. And that applies to solar manufacturing, but that will in the future also apply to hydrogen. So, so we're very happy that these are also your main focus areas and we can work together in those fields. Shubhangi, 4 people from the public sector speaking about how investments should be increased from the private sector. But besides probably Mr. Chakdale with over 30 years of experience in those fields, I'm taking you out of this now, not really working in those fields, you know. And you coming from the private sector, and you're really like working on the pulse of it, and you're really being the one who can tell us what works, what doesn't work. I mean, it needs to be profit-oriented. It cannot just be, you know, this it cannot be just talking. It needs to be including the private sector. We need to talk to the private sector, but there needs to follow something as well. What would be, first of all, the approach that you follow with your company, and then also what would be your advice to those 3 very experienced men sitting on the panel together with you, and me also for my future work, still having more than 30 years to go as a civil servant.
So that was a great introduction to a very interesting challenge in this conversation. But I wouldn't say advice from my end, and we'll come back to this. I think it will be a request, actually. So I'm going to take you a little bit longer than my colleagues here on this panel, because I want to take you through the journey of what it takes for companies to make an investment in solar, and also introduce Superhuman Race and what we do. So we're basically an AI and data modeling platform for sustainability. And a lot of the work that we do is enabling decision-making frameworks for companies who want to invest in solar. So I'm going to take you through 3 client stories today, but before we delve in those stories, I'm going to take a step back and give you an idea of why these clients are even considering any kind of sustainability investments. So India, of course, has the BRSR, which mandates for the top 1,000 companies by market capitalization that they have to do sustainability reporting. And then, of course, in Europe, we have the CSRD, which this is the first year of CSRD reporting, where sustainability reporting is again mandated. But it's not just the compliance system that has created this evolution of a space where companies are actually looking at sustainability. And a key part of that sustainability for these companies is actually looking at investments in solar. So our first kind of client that I want to take you through is Mindspace, REIT, which is a real estate investment trust. So companies like that come to us and they're looking at rooftop solar as a potential, right? So when they come to us, we do data modeling for them. We look at their occupancy within their buildings. We look at their the electricity generation, the grid electricity consumption that they're looking at. And then we look at other modules within that sphere of actually looking at their potential investments. So we use data simulations to actually advise them that if you look at all of these assets that you have, these are the top, let's say 10, that you would want to go ahead and do investment in solar PV installations, rooftop solar installation for these. The other sort of thing we do with these companies is also on sustainability reporting. And why this matters to somebody like Mindspace is because they've received 650 crores in green investments from IFC this year. And that's about 220 million USD. Sorry, 77 million USD. And over the last couple of years, they've received the equivalent of 220 million USD. Now, how are they getting these investments? They're actually doing it through sustainability reporting through our platforms, and a portion of that money is actually going into solar investments as well. So that's the first kind of client who's actually looking at getting into the space. Then we have the second type of client where we've worked with mining companies who actually have made commitments and therefore are looking at how to do installation of a solar power plant within their locations. In those kind of spaces, we again do the same kind of data modeling, and we actually figure out that based on their electricity use, their net zero targets that they've set, and also potential across different renewable energy options. What is the best kind of payback period that they have, and the highest return on investment? And the data modeling and simulations we run across this have actually resulted in a 25% less payback period across these, which is a great compared to the industry standard as well. And the third kind of client we work with is actually a German automotive manufacturer. And these are folks who already have a 100% renewable energy target. They have plants in India. They have 80% of their energy coming from renewable. And their challenge is, again, data simulation, because they're looking at, they already have PPAs as well, so purchase agreements for power. And the last challenge that they're looking at is data modeling for things like day-ahead energy purchase from somebody like an IEX. So can you imagine the amount of data modeling and simulations we do? We look at things like building management services data. We look at data that comes in from grid consumption. We look at data that comes in from solar generation across their actual captured solar. And we also look at data that comes from their production days. So when they're actually on production and what kind of requirements that have. What we've kind of realized is there is no one that had these kind of models. We assumed when we started getting into this actually that everybody would have access to all of these data models and they'd be readily available and we'd be able to punch in a bunch of numbers and take this really easily. But what we realized is these data models actually exist only with a few consultants. So companies can't make that choice for investment if they don't have access to this. So my request, as I was coming to, is actually to get these kind of data models on maybe a publicly available technology platform that has dynamic, rules-based kind of technology and AI modeling to enable us to actually have, let's say a company uploads their own data that they have, and they're able to figure out based on that what is the ROI for them on an investment. And maybe even aggregate all of that to be able to look at investments together and also look at who could be financing this as well.
Thank you, Shubhangi, for your intervention and for your very concise recommendation of what you think would be needed also from the public sector. We have to speed up this session a little bit. So I'm just, Dr. Mathur, you have touched upon the issue of innovation. And I'm just asking you, but also the audience, to give me like a hand sign, whether you think net zero goals can only be achieved with agri-PV. So whoever thinks that we need agrivoltaics, solar, please raise your hands if you think that only with, that net zero goals can only be achieved with that. Nobody. Okay, we have our defenders from GIZ there working in the agri-PV field. Thank you for your, okay, so you're also in favor of agri-PV. Thank you so much for standing with the German corporation from that side. Very briefly, why not? Dr. Mathur, 30 seconds.
Agri-PV, why? Agri-PV is particularly useful in countries where there is a fight between land for food and land for energy. It is absolutely imperative, it also comes to the why not, it's absolutely imperative in countries where there is a dense population. In countries where there is not a dense population, you can probably get by. Particularly in the case of India, you can look at the deserts of Thar or the Rann of Kutch, and those could provide the spaces that are needed for adequate electricity generation.
Shubhangi, I think Dr. Mathur has now very nicely pulled it actually to the SDG side as well, highlighting the land use. Why not? Or you simply have no answer to that question?
Why not in case of?
Agri-PV.
No, I think I believe that agri-PV is a key part of the right sort of community, as Dr. Mathur was saying. I mean, we have seen projects where within CSR frameworks that we also work with, where agri-PV has been very successful in the kind of rural communities that need it. But I don't think it's the only solution, as Dr. Mathur is saying. So I'm in agreement with him, actually.
Sir, what are the other solutions?
Yeah. No, what I believe is, I think net zero is beyond any one solution. And I think it has, one has to have an approach which is country specific based on what the geographical, demographic constituents of that country are, what is the resource availability, and really how the citizen actually partners, actually involves in the entire energy transition. So let's look at India. Let's look at India. India has 36 states. It has different geographical weather patterns, the climate change, the different wind speeds, the radiation, different areas, as Mr. Mathur also mentioned about the deserts. So how are we dealing with it? I think our approach is on a distributed renewable energy. While we focus on distributed, we have large solar parks. One of the largest in the world are housed in India. We believe that solarization of agriculture sector is important, and therefore we are incentivizing the farmers to put solar pumps. We are also looking at bioenergy, we are looking at waste to energy, we are looking at hydro energy. So anything that constitutes a part of the definition of renewable energy is what India believes that would be an overall encompassing solution for net zero. And therefore, while I mention that, I do believe that wherever required, in whatever form and shape it comes, we would support agri-PV, but it also must be based on the farmer's choice, what benefits the farmer gets, and therefore we have been experimenting in various parts of the country how it is coming up. The question was, is it the only solution, therefore we didn't raise the hand? If it was one of the solution, everybody I think in this room would have raised the hand. Thank you.
Uwe,
Thinking out of the box?
think out of the box, please.
Why don't you try to solve one particular issue if you can solve a whole holistic problem? Because, you know, when you ask on the agri-PV dimension, Ajay, your reaction was just, beside of supporting it in general, you just came up with the challenges you have to address on the whole thing. But these challenges, you know, they're in a specific sector in agriculture. You would have similar, all over the board, you know, on rooftop, on just covering streets and all the thing is. So what we're obviously lacking, and this is across all nations, is a system, a baseline where we address and setting the priority. So obviously we're discussing this issue of the necessity of enlarging renewable energies constantly in the COP here. We will have in Hamburg a sustainability conference coming up soon, great occasion for just going on these issues, but we then slice it down in little pillars and little silos, and then it doesn't get on. What we're not doing is we're not putting this expansion of renewable energies really to the upfront and saying, okay, let's work on this one. You know, the question of land owning rights and the compensation mechanism, the question of data access. You know, in my country, data is, you know, like a holy grail. And for a purpose, but on the other hand, when it's hindering a constructive development, can you accept it and stand still and say, no, I accept it and done? No, the thing is, and this is again, it's a development issue. It's not one of the private sector alone, and it's not one of the public sector alone. It's a development issue which has to address jointly. And for that, you need to have a mechanism and a buy-in of everybody, and how people are kept accountable, and that they're doing it severe, and not just stuck in their silo. So, long answer, out of the box, agri-PV, absolute necessary. Why not? I have no idea what speaks against it, beside of existing structures obviously don't allow it, but not why changing the structure instead of just skipping the option. And agri-PV is for a lot of landholders, it's an option. It's a great thing. That's long answer.
Thank you so much, Uwe. Like I said, we have to wrap up the session a little earlier, but I'm not going to do a Q&A. But sir, would you like to say why you raised the hand in favor of agri-PV? Please. I'll jump here, okay? There you go.
Thank you. My name is Damandeep. I also work with ISA Agro-PV. I mean, the example from agroforestry, it's very encouraging. I would agree with what Mr. Ghazali said, that it's not the only solution, but it can be one of the major solutions towards net zero because of the large amount of land availability. And it can be a good source of co-benefits for the farmers as well as for the climate and for world's net zero target.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that intervention from the audience. Before I wrap up, very quickly, This is like one of many events showing like towards the long way of the rest of the year and then very much beyond that. Uwe has mentioned that we shall launch the Indo-German platform most likely together with Honorable Minister MNRE Yoshi and my Minister Schulze at the RE Invest 16th to 18th. So whoever has not registered yet, please do so. I think that was the most important part to mention. Uwe has touched up on the Hamburg Sustainability Conference. That will be taking place 7th and 8th of October in Hamburg. It's the first of its kind, many to follow. It is like Germany's new flagship in the sustainability area, and we are very much looking forward to also Indian participation at this conference and also others globally. So I would like to highlight that as our flagship conference that is upcoming, showing towards the Bretton Woods, showing towards the COP, showing towards ISA General Assembly, which is going to come up as well. So we have a line of events which are coming up and which are all one standing and stepping stone, milestone for Indo-German cooperation. With that said, I want one minor event to also be highlighted because it's so beautiful, I think, the next conversation series. We know that there will be another GSDP conversation series, very much like this one, different panelists, but also hopefully very engaging discussion and encouraging topic on natural resource management and gender in Kolkata on the 4th of December. So whoever should be in Kolkata then, very much appreciated. Contact Baya, who is standing up there. Baya, can you wave at us? Yeah, thank you. Get in touch with her, drop your card with Baya. She will add you to our invitee list for the next GSDP conversation series. That said, very, very much thank you from our side, from the German Corporation side, for this panel. Thank you so much for joining us in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
No. 5 minutes before.